am in Ocean Springs, Mississippi.
Mississippi.
Yeah.
And I'm currently coming from Biloxi, Mississippi.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that's where all the fun stuff is, all the casinos and whatnot.
I used to drive there all the time, man.
Yeah, I saw that you well, we'll talk about it on the show.
Cool.
At your Twitter is Mangum1, right?
Yes, Mangum1.
Mangum1.
Thanks
for coming on, by the way. So nice to meet you. I'm who you've been emailing with. I'm
cool.
Jacob.
Hi, Jacob. Sure, man.
So, yeah, we're best friends already. That's Jason, my less funny, less handsome co-host.
Love it.
Should I make a Facebook post, or is it even going to matter?
Yeah, Facebook. I don't care, man. No one really comes to us from Facebook.
Fuck
anymore,
Facebook.
to be honest.
Oh, and you can say whatever you like on the show. You can curse. Okay. Just don't say the N-word or anything.
Yeah,
we have very strict regulations.
Sure. I did a live show for a while last year, and I was like, "Yeah, just don't get canceled."
Right.
Just say anything, but don't get canceled.
I mean, Jacob skirts the line pretty close every week, but I just
no, I don't, dude.
Yeah,
I don't. Okay.
Dude, last week you said retarded like 4 times. Like, dude.
Who did we have on last week?
It was Brant Tobler was on last week.
That's his fault, dude. He brings it out of me.
I'm like, man, you can't say that stuff anymore, man. But I'm gonna let it go, because one day when Spotify pays us like $25,000 an episode, and they're like, you're gonna have to go back and edit all that out.
Yeah,
I'm gonna make you do it.
Well,
I'm gonna make you go back and edit all of it out.
Well, I'm gonna have to issue an apology at that point. I'm gonna have to publicly apologize for everything Jonathan, I've ever said on a podcast.
It's nice to meet you, man. This is pretty much what the show is. We're gonna we'll start the show and
awesome.
We'll just talk, and wherever the conversation takes us, that's pretty much how it goes.
I love it.
All right, well, Jacob, you ready to do this?
Yes, sir.
Do we have any ad reads at the beginning or anything?
If I'm not mistaken, I think everything is still up to date in our little pre-roll thing, so we should be good.
All right, well, here we go in 3, 2, 1. It is a rare Friday episode of the Open Micers podcast. My name is Jason Robbins.
Call me Eggs Benedict because I'm yoked to be here. I'm Jacob Craig. And guys, our guest tonight is, I don't know if you're as yoked as I am, Jason, but I am the yoked that I've been in a while. I'm the yokiest that I've been in a while for our guest, because you know him from Whose Line Is It Anyway? Let's Make a Deal, The Drew Carey Show, so much more. You know him from Improv Comedy. You know him from acting. It's Jonathan Mangum himself. How are you doing today?
What is up? How you guys doing?
Doing great now that you're here. I've been looking forward to this all week, and then Jacob told me we weren't going to do it Monday night. And I'm like, man, I got to wait even longer.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I think I have teenage kids, and there's always stuff happening and taking cars and, screaming and, teenage kid stuff.
Yeah, teenagers, they just scream sometimes.
They scream.
Well, Jacob's barely out of his teens, so he knows exactly what you're talking about.
I'm barely out of my teens, and I have a 2-year-old, which coincidentally, 2-year-olds act a lot like teenagers.
Oh, yeah.
My 2-year-old, lately, she's been telling me that she's a grown-up and that I can't tell her to do anything.
She has a point.
She has the point. Like, what am I supposed to say? I'm like,
she's already won.
I know. It's like, well, I guess if you don't want to go to sleep, you don't have to. I don't know.
No.
Like, what's the protocol here?
Yeah.
For those of you watching on Twitch and that's going to watch this on YouTube later, you'll notice that me and Mr. Mangum we have our nice, cameras that make us look good. We're looking good, right? Jacob looks like he's coming to us from deep in a bunker in Ukraine. We have Jacob Craig coming to us.
Yeah, I'm renting an Airbnb in Ukraine. It was dirt cheap, dude. It was just the best deal I've ever gotten.
No, seriously, he rented a Airbnb like 2 towns over from where he lives. I'm like, what are you doing, man?
Well, why? What's the point?
Exactly.
We had a free night. It's right by the beach. It's right by. There's a mall. There's all kinds of nice places to eat.
Oh, there's a mall. Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Have you guys ever been to a mall before?
I've been to the mall a couple times. Yeah.
You got to go hit up
There's
the Spencer's.
a lot of stores in there, man.
They do.
Play with the dildos and Spencer's, then hop over and get some candy
I haven't
corn.
been to that mall. That's a different mall.
That's a different
Not been to the dildo mall.
No. That's so weird. Like the line between Hot Topic and Spencer's is so thin yet so thick at the same time. Like you'll see like parents with their kids in Spencer's, and it's like you cannot go to aisles 5 and 6.
I remember my kids used to love. My kids wanted to go in those places, and I was like, "Oh wait, no, don't." Like, but what's the worst that was going to happen anyway? But yeah, they never did.
I don't know exactly what age it was that I used to go in the mall, and like I liked going in shops like Hot Topic. Like I like to go in there and look at the graphic tees and stuff. And then there was a point in my life where I walked in there and I'm like, I'm too fucking old for this, and I just walked out and I haven't been back.
Yeah, here's 38 anime people that you've never seen before, and it's just like I'm out of it now. There's too much for me to learn to know what's happening in the world, so I just stopped.
When you walk in and you see pop stars on T-shirts, and like instead of seeing like T-shirts of like Metallica and Megadeth, you walk in and there's like T-shirts of like pop stars I've never heard of. I'm like, not my store anymore.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Honestly, I think I might be too old for Hot Topic because I don't know any of those people either. I'll walk in and like I'll see a band T-shirt that I've never heard of before, and I'm like, what are we doing here?
Spencer's is still cool though. Like I like to go in Spencer's and look at all the cool stuff. They got really cool T-shirts, coffee mugs in there, and they still have the cool stuff like the fake vomit and the like the fart whistles and all that kind of stuff.
How is that cool? You're 45.
Dude, nothing. Fart whistles will always be funny.
Yep. I'm a little older than you guys. When I was a kid, we go to the mall. They had a thing called Fast Tracks. Do you guys know what this is at all?
Fast Tracks.
You'd walk into a booth. They'd have a karaoke version of whatever song you wanted. You'd sing it in this booth, and they'd hand you a cassette of your performance. It was a thing in the 80s. It was awesome.
I remember that. I remember my aunt who was we were raised like brother and sister. She was only a couple of years older than me. And so we used to go to the mall together a lot. And this was when I was a little kid, like maybe 5-6 years old. I remember her and my other cousin went to the mall together, and they came back, and she had a tape of them singing "You Lost That Lovin' Feeling."
Yeah.
And it was the most awful thing ever. I'm like, ugh.
It's you just sound terrible, but it was something to do in the mall.
Yeah.
I feel like now that and it used to be that all the coolest video games were in the mall because this was before the first PlayStation, and so it was like you did your shitty Atari or Coleco at home, then you go to the mall, it was the good stuff. But like now the malls, the games are crap. It's like your PS5 is going to blow any of that shit away. So it's a bummer that there's not as much shit to do at the mall for dudes.
Yeah.
You'll be lucky to even find an arcade game at the mall anymore.
Yeah.
Like,
there's no more arcades at the mall.
Well, the one that was here in Biloxi, what me and my friends used to do, we would get out early, like around noon from college, and we'd come over to the mall and we would go to the arcade, and we would play games just enough to be able to win mustaches, and then we would go and put mustaches on all the Victoria's Secret posters.
Nice.
Priceless.
You probably could have just taken that money and went and bought like a crate of mustaches for what you had to spend to get the 2 or 3 mustaches that you got.
Yeah, but it's fun to like just throw a ball at a few clowns to earn the mustaches,
Yeah.
But
well, that derailed the conversation.
Yeah, I have a knack for that, don't I? I'll just bring up something fucking stupid, and then we have nothing else to talk about.
I used to drive. So I grew up in Mobile, Alabama, which is not too far from Biloxi. Because Biloxi is where I would drive to get my booze because it was 18 at the time, and you could drive to Mississippi and you get your booze. You could gamble, and I loved it, man.
See, then a little while later, Mississippi changed it to 21, and then it was Louisiana that was 18. And so my brother, who was a couple of years older than me, him and his friends would always go over to Slidell on the weekends to get drunk.
Sure.
And then, of course, like the month before I turned 18, they changed the law and made it 21 in Louisiana. Like, thanks.
Yeah, they did that with my dad on his 18th birthday. They changed the law in Mississippi to where you had to be 21. Which he just did it illegally anyways, like everyone else. But it's just still,
it's Mississippi. If you can walk in and like see over the counter, they'll give you booze. They don't care.
Yeah, for sure, dude.
I think that's the state motto. Mississippi will give you booze. I'm pretty sure that's. I've seen that on a sign driving in.
You'll be lucky if all you get is booze when you come to Mississippi. But so you're from Mobile.
Yeah.
How long were you in Mobile? Most of your childhood, or did you move away?
Yeah, no, most of childhood. So I was born in Charleston, South Carolina, but moved to Mobile like around the time you would go to grade school. So I did all grade school through high school. And then I went to college for a year in Louisiana, a couple years in Orlando, and then somehow ended up in LA after that. But I loved growing up down there. It was awesome.
So
I was trying to tell my kids today about what a dirt clod war was. They had no idea. I was trying to explain it to them. They're like, wait, you pick up a piece of dirt with maybe rocks inside it and you throw it as hard as you can at your friend's face? I'm like, yeah, dirt clod war. What don't you understand? It's a dirt clod war.
So what year was it that, all that started happening? Like where you started doing improv, and then how did things work out? How'd you get from here to there?
Yeah. Well, I got out. That's the first step.
Tell me how. I'm 45 and I'm still here.
Oh, so get me out. So I went to school for a year at LSU to be an engineer, whatever that was, and did not go well, especially with all those daiquiri machines that they have. So didn't survive year one. Went to Orlando because they were doing a Disney college program where you work in the Disney World during the day, and then on the weekends you take classes, like Disney classes for school credit. And I was working at Disney World. I'm like, this is great. I kind of like this better. So I just said to my mom, I'm like, I'm not going to go back to Louisiana. I'm staying here in Orlando, go to school here. So finish off school there. But that's where I met my friend Wayne Brady, who is the host of Let's Make a Deal. And we started doing comedy together. We were teenagers, like 19, 20 years old. And that whole improv group, after like 5 or 6 years in Orlando, moved out to LA together. And I was in the mid to late 90s.
That's awesome. So when you first met Wayne Brady, how fast was that friendship? Like how fast did that come together?
It was, there was a group of us that were doing it. Like we weren't great friends right away. We were good. We were friends, but we weren't hanging out much in the earliest time in Orlando. That kind of came later. Like I think once we started coming to LA, it kind of changed to that. But he was always really good. Even when you start, you're all terrible. But even when we were all terrible, he was still, you could tell, like, oh, this guy, there's something going on. This guy's got something good going on. We've been doing comedy together ever since.
Just kind of, I've always been I've taken a few improv classes here and there. Yeah. But my mind just doesn't work that fast. Like, is that just a skill you have to develop, or is that something you're kind of innately born with and then you develop?
No, I don't think I think it's a skill. I think that like anything, you watch someone, play an amazing song on the piano. It's like, well, how'd you do that? It's like, well, because I do it every day for the last 30 fucking years. So it's like, oh, okay. So, I mean, I think obviously there are some things that would help you if you had an inclination towards being witty, maybe, or that would kind of make it easier for you than someone that doesn't have that. But I do think it's a skill. I think it's just practice, man. You gotta start off sucking at something, and then you gotta just do it a billion times till you're good at it.
Yeah, see, that's what you're missing, Jason, is wit. just have a little bit of that, and you'll be good.
Just a little bit.
Glad you're here to illuminate these things for me, there, Jacob.
You're welcome, buddy. So you, what drew you to improv comedy of all things? Because like full disclosure, I mean, we've talked to great actors, we've talked to great stand-up comedians. I'm not sure if we've ever really talked to a great improv comedian.
Well, you still haven't. Yeah, maybe you can get Wayne on. I saw a show in Orlando called Comedy Sports. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. Comedy Sports is it's like an improv show where there's two teams of comedians, but they are dressed up like in baseball outfits, and they treat the whole thing like a baseball match. And it's really fun. And I'd never seen improv before, and I saw this show, and I was like, holy crap, they're just making this up. I don't believe this. And I went up to the guys like, I can't believe that you guys made that up. And he's like, yeah, we teach classes. I'm like, okay, well, I'll take a class. So I took one comedy sports class, and this guy goes, okay, you're ready. And I go, ready for what? He goes, yeah, you're coming to do it on stage next week. And I was like, what? And that was the way they did it with that group, is like, you weren't ready. No, you weren't ready. And they just threw you in the fire, which now looking back, like, that's the greatest. Of course, I was not good, but just that, like, being in the fire, like, that is such a great teaching tool. So they, kept throwing me in the fire. And after like 6 or 7 shows, I was kind of like, okay. And I started figuring shit out and getting better and better. And, but yeah, so much better learning to just be thrown in a show. As opposed to like, oh, here's a class and here's another class. You're going to take classes for 20 weeks and then we'll have a little performance for your family. No, fuck that. You are on stage in front of paying people that are disappointed that you suck.
And the thing that I noticed when I took a few improv classes, it was always easier when you're playing against somebody that is all in.
Yeah.
Like if you're with somebody that is not really into it, or it's just kind of like anything. If you're bouncing off somebody that, like, say, if Jacob got on stage with Wayne Brady, he's going to make Jacob funnier.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, and part of the improv is it is a team sport, right?
Yeah.
So you're only about as good as the least good person. So you can be great, and then it's like you're with someone that's bad, and if they're just a dud, you're just going to sink yourself because you can't carry it if someone's just not bringing something at least.
See, there you go. I'm so talented. I'll make Wayne Brady less funny.
Oh, interesting.
That takes some skill right there.
I mean, on this podcast, you make me less funny. So, But I wanted to ask you about, like, whose line is it anyway? Because I've been watching that show since the 90s. Like, I used to watch it back, the British one on Comedy Central. And then, of course, they brought it to America, and it was a big hit. And one thing I want to know, I've never seen it live or anything like that. How much is left, like, on the cutting room floor to make it as snappy as it is? Or is it just are they so good that it's like that the whole time?
So originally, the way they would do it is you would go in and you would tape like 6 hours worth of like comedy improv, right? And they would just kind of just do a bunch of shit. They'd take the best, and then they'd make the show out of that.
Okay.
And then, producers are always trying to save money, and they're always trying to do. So now at this point, almost every single thing that we shoot ends up on TV because, the CW is like, wait, can you get 10 episodes out of one taping day? And Dan, the producer's like, sure. So, it's like, unless something goes wrong, like an audio drops out or a camera goes down, pretty much everything we do in a live taping ends up on TV.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, also everyone that does it has been doing it for so long that it's like,
I imagine it's like watching the Beatles perform. Like when you have like comedy of that caliber and that level of, improv skills, it's got to be just amazing to watch live.
It is, and the good thing is that if you've been doing it for so long, it's like you obviously want to be funny and you want to be the funniest you've ever been. But also, if you feel like you're not, like sometimes you just don't have the right, you're just not feeling it. There's a real easy autopilot switch that just will put you in autopilot mode based on all the shit you've learned over the last 30 years, and you can still sail through looking great, even if you yourself don't feel like you had a great show.
Yeah. I saw a blooper the other night. I think it might have been Ryan Stiles, who was arguing with a censor about like what kind of like a joke that they had to cut out or something like that. Is there a lot of that anymore where you have like R-rated versions that you can't air on TV?
I mean, not really. It's no, not really. Occasionally, Ryan will drop. I mean, the worst that ever happens is an F-bomb. I mean, and then sometimes they'll bleep it because it's funny if you bleep it. And there's actually rules, like, I don't know what they are for CW, which is where Whose Line airs now, but there's rules about how many F-bombs you can say, how many you can bleep per episode. So there's all this, they have to figure it out. But yes, I mean, it's not, sexual innuendo is always funnier than if you are just being dirty. Because then you feel like you're doing something wrong and like, ooh, and that is funnier than just coming right out and saying fuck, which,
And I'm pretty sure that by now they know how close they can get to the line without going over.
Yeah.
But definitely. Whose line is it that they're going over, huh? Whoa. I'm a professional comedian.
Man, get to the mall right now and do a show.
Yeah. I'm going to have an open mic at Spencer's Aisle 6 after this. Yeah. So you've been doing Let's Make a Deal too for just so long. I mean, since 2009, hundreds of episodes.
You want to know how many? I believe it's around 2,600 episodes.
Jesus,
2,600 1-hour episodes of television.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense because it's on every day, whether they're showing a rerun or not. It's on every single day in that time slot.
Yeah, it's been great because as an actor, it's like getting on anything that lasts more than a year is already like almost impossible. So to get on this, and great thing is we do the whole season in 4 months, right? So we have 7 months to go do whatever else we want to do. So that kind of freedom and regular work is insane. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, since 2009, like that's longer than Seinfeld or any other, like even other really good game shows. That's like it just has such a long lifespan. Do you have like because you're the announcer for the show?
Yep.
But even more than that, like you're involved with kind of the games, or like you'll sing with Wayne or do things like that. Like, does that keep it fun, or does it get kind of monotonous for a while after doing it for decades?
So the improv is what keeps it fun. Wayne and I, we've been doing a 2-person like Whose Line type tour for the last 20 years. So we've gone all over the country. We've been to Biloxi. We've been to Australia and London and just Canada. And we do that all the time. And so that's my favorite thing to do, like even more than doing TV or anything. Like the live improv show. And then with Wayne is like so much fun. So that's kind of what the show is like now, is like there's a game show that we know that has to happen, but we're doing everything we can to make it a variety show, even though producers are like, hey, well, let's stick to the game. Like, anyway, Wayne, do that accent again. And so it's like, that actually is what keeps it fun. If I was just standing back there and going, it's a new car, you want a Honda, and if I just had to just say shit like that all day long, I would lose my mind. I don't know if I could handle that for that long.
How many episodes a day do you record? Well, like when you're in the heat of recording? 3
a day, and they're 45-minute episodes when they're edited. That's how the rest is commercials, and it takes about an hour and 20 minutes to make that 45-minute show. So that's really good. Just for people that don't know, like to make like a sitcom like Friends, a 30-minute show. I picked Friends because that's how old I am. That show's been off the air for 1,000 years. Their tapings are like 6 or 7 hours. Jeez. So for us to be able to do an hour and 20 minutes to make a 45-minute show is really, really great.
What's the craziest thing you've seen while doing that show?
So the number one question I get is, what's the craziest costume you've ever seen? Because people dress up and stuff. And I tell people, like, imagine if I've done like 2,500 episodes. Imagine if you went to 2,500 Halloween parties, 3 a day for the last 15 years. Like, it's like, it just all merges in my head into one big, just sloppy monster. Yeah, there have been some cool ones, but it's like I can't remember. I can't remember.
So
People be like, "Hey, remember me? I won a car on your show 6 years ago." I'm like, "Nope, I'm sorry. No offense. I do not remember you."
But one of the funniest parts of the show, I think for me, is the zonks too. Like,
Yeah,
is there like a writing or like design process that goes behind that? Like, do any of you
yeah,
guys just brainstorm it?
there's people that come up with them. I've always been like there's kind of this like constant like I don't want to say argument, but between a conversation between the producers and between Wayne and myself. And like so the producers they want to use time up. So when they want a zonk and they've like created this cool, half elephant, half zebra creature that's giant, and they're like, yeah, so we got this zonk and the curtain's open, you got zonk, but we want to milk it. So what can we do to milk it? Go in there and pretend to ride it and say something about what it is. And it's like, man, it's so hard to try to be funny when someone just got fucked, right? It's like you just got a piece of shit, and now we're gonna talk about how much of a piece of shit it is. So that's always been our like argument is like, no, just we'll do the comedy before the zonk, and then oh, it's a piece of shit. Sorry, let's move on. They just got, there's 2 seconds to see what it is, and it's funny, or it's a pun, or it's good. But I prefer to do the comedy not when someone, because gosh, man, some of these people like 20 grand would change their lives if they won that big prize, and like to like have it taken away, and then hear me, this rich asshole, is now going to riff on you're going to a trip to the center of the earth where you're going to eat it. It's just like, it's not. I don't like that.
Have you ever had anybody who's wanted to take a zonk home?
Oh, they always ask. They're always like, "Can we take that home?" And it's like, no, you can't. You can't take that. First of all, you couldn't. We also tell them too that it's like you have to pay taxes on any prizes. So okay, well that zonk cost us that dilapidated car that the pieces all fall off. Yeah. Our design team, the car that junky car probably cost $25,000 in prop fee. So you're going to have to pay, let's see, $5,000 in taxes, and you're going to have to ship it. You're going to have to get a container and put it on a boat. Like they go, okay, we get it.
Well, there have been some zonks though that like there's like these crazy cars like you mentioned, but some of them like they'll like drive around the studio a little bit, and it looks kind of street legal.
Yeah. They don't get to keep them.
I would at least ask to just drive around in it for a little bit.
Oh, if you win a junky car or something that drives around, we usually have the person go down and get in it. That's okay though, because that's more like they're kind of celebrating their failure in a fun way, as opposed to me reading copy that's making fun of them for losing money or a prize or something.
How much trouble would you get into if that happened, and then you were just like, "Ha ha, you lose, you broke bitch," and start laughing at them?
I wouldn't get in trouble because thankfully, producers' jobs are to make the show look good and to protect the people on the show. So, which is actually kind of smart, because they say to us, don't edit yourself. Wayne and my 2-person show that we tour is rated R basically. I mean, we're dirty and it's lots of sex stuff, but instead of having to think about editing ourselves because we're on daytime, they go, just say whatever you want, and then we'll go in and cut out the stuff that doesn't work. So yeah, there are times where we're on the set where Wayne and I are during a taping, we'll just start going into like things we've done to each other's mothers and just like start riffing on stuff like that. And we know they're going to cut it, but at least we feel like we're not, we can't say this. We can say whatever we want. And so that's kind of a great thing.
I was going to say, that seems kind of dangerous. Like if me and Jacob were given that position, there would be nothing usable.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to air at 3 a.m. when no one's watching. Like you can't put that on TV. But,
I thought I was joking one time. I did this bit, and I know they cut it, but I ended every prize copy with "for your ass." So it's a new Hyundai for your ass. It's new for your ass, and it got a lot of laughs, but they cut it out. But they let us do that stuff, which is awesome.
Which I think that explains kind of the longevity of the show too, because I mean, if you're having fun and you have freedom to do everything, then there's no way to come to work and then be told that you can't do what you want to do and still want to come to work.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's I mean, and plus having your friend of 20, 30 years now as the host just makes it easier too. Because our job, I feel like my job is just to make him laugh and to mess with him, and he feels the same way. So we're constantly just trying to, people think, oh, you produced this bit where you walked up and did a thing, and it's like, no, none of that's produced. That was not planned. I just decided to like run down there and pretend to slap him as far, and he goes with it, and vice versa. So the only thing that's not planned on that show is the prizes, the games, and the stuff I have to say about the prize. Like, it's a trip to here, and this is what it's worth. But everything else, made up.
Yeah. And you can't really make up that kind of chemistry either. Like, you can't really screen test that.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't work like that.
So did you watch Let's Make a Deal when you were a kid? Because that was always like a staple of television when I was a kid, with Monty Hall.
Yeah, Monty Hall. He came out to a couple shows. He passed away a couple years ago, but he came out to a couple shows. He was a nice guy. I never watched Let's Make a Deal. I don't think we had it in Mobile. We had Price is Right, and I remember watching that when I was sick home from school. But I don't. My mom also had her soaps, so I was like, I'm pretty sure she had to change it to watch Ryan's Hope or whatever the hell the soap was back then. But I mean, I knew of it. I knew what the deal was. I knew what the games. I kind of knew what the whole vibe was of the show.
Because you could always tell when you go back and watch, they have the Game Show Network and all that kind of stuff, and you watch those old episodes. And I love watching old like Price is Right episodes too. Because Bob Barker, you could tell at a certain point he was just like, I'm so fucking tired of doing this shit.
Yeah.
I swear to God, no one's saying and neutering their pets, and I'm fed up with it.
I mean, it's like I can't imagine doing that. Like my friend Drew Carey does Price is Right, and I can't imagine doing that over and over, because there's not a lot of room to do kind of what Wayne and I did, which is like we can literally say anything we want all the time and turn it into a bit, and suddenly we're having a racing contest for no reason on the front of the stage. Like, we could really do whatever we want, and I can't imagine doing a game show where you're just stuck in this thing over and over again. But you know what? I guess if you get paid enough, it doesn't matter. You'll do anything.
Yeah, I'm sure his kids are going to be set up.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure he's happy with where he's at.
Oh
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you've been on stage plenty doing improv, and you've been in studio plenty doing acting and any of that. Why no stand up? Have you ever tried stand up before?
I did try it once. I did. Yeah. It was the first joke went really well.
Yeah. And
I was like, oh, this is great. This is awesome. And I was like feeling like super confident. And then the second joke, and when I say joke, I mean, 2 to 3 minute setup story with bits. So the first segment, or if you want to call it, great. Second segment, it was like a little like, oh, what? Like they didn't quite get it.
Yeah.
And then the third one just died. And then it was because I'm used to like turning and seeing another improviser there who's going to start talking, which is one of the secrets of improv, is like, if you're doing a scene with someone in improv and you say something that's not funny, the other person can start talking right away, in that the audience won't know that you even thought what you were trying to be funny, right? Mm-hmm. So they'll just go, oh, he was just talking. He wasn't making a joke, because this next person's talking. It's like, no, you made a joke and it's died. And so your partner is going to start talking right away to like make it seem like we haven't hit the punchline yet. So yeah, in this, I was like, oh, and I learned nobody on stage with me. And I was like, and I made some lame joke about, I have to go now. And I just walked off. It was horrible. I was like, that sucks.
Yeah, it's definitely agonizing when you're up there by yourself and you have like no safety net at all. Like, it's either you're funny or not.
Oh, me and Jacob have seen quite a few doing open mics where, you would see a new person come in and you've never seen them before, and they go up and they do like 3 jokes, and then they're like, okay, bye. And then they just leave and literally walk out the front door.
Yeah, that's kind of what I did. Yeah. Yeah. It's like anything that, in life, it's like, hey, photography's cool. I should get into photography. That looks pretty easy. I think I could take pictures. And then you go into the world of photography and you're like, oh, the learning curves I have to spend years learning life. And so stand up any kind of musical instrument, like anything. It's like, oh, it might seem like, oh, I could do that. And you get in, you're like, well, you have to pretty much make it your thing for a long time if you want to get just adequate at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you can be T.I. and just headline comedy clubs right away.
Wait, BTI, what's that?
T.I., the rapper. He's Tip Harris.
Is he is he doing he's doing stand up?
Yeah, so he's doing stand up now, and he's headlining the Stardome here in, I think, Huntsville, Alabama, a few hours away from here.
What?
And he's horrible. Like, it's a joke on the internet how bad he is at stand up, and he's headlining comedy clubs.
He probably is just making it. He probably thinks that he could just improvise his way. You know who can do that? Like, the only person I've ever seen that could improvise his way through a stand up is Sinbad. He would just
yeah.
I was like, what? And he just knows how to talk funny and find people in the audience and do the crowd work and still just like go into, and it's like, gosh, this set is completely different than the one I just saw him. Like, it's crazy. He's the greatest I've seen at, like, just, I'm going to just improv a stand-up set.
And you're not the first person I've heard say that about Sinbad. Like, I've always liked Sinbad, way back in the 90s. I always thought he was funny, but I've heard a lot of podcasts recently where people have been talking about how Sinbad is like a big influence on him, and people talk about how, they went to see him 2 or 3 nights in a row. He'd be coming through, do 2-3 nights in a row and do a different set every single night. Like, one set would just be him like driving to a restaurant earlier that day, and he does a whole hour about it. It's like, how are you that freaking prolific at what
That's
you
amazing.
do?
Yeah. There was a show out here that my friend Greg Proops has done a bunch of, and Drew did some too. I didn't get to see it, but it was a cool concept where they would just flash a word, like a random word behind you, and you just have to go, okay, battleships, and you would just start stand up. Now, the good thing is that because the audience knew you were just making it up, the bar for good was lowered so that you could be funny without having to have a perfected act. But it was a really cool idea to just to do that. I would have loved to have seen that. Maybe even tried it.
That is cool. That would be weird to do, though. Like, not know what you're going to talk about. You just go up and see a word and you have to riff on that. That seems like a really good exercise, but scary.
Yeah.
Like, that's really scary.
I mean, but the audience, they love. I mean, the audience loves to see you scared. And this was my argument why, talking about like whose line, like Ryan and Colin are both so good. But I think I would prefer to watch Colin because he's the one that looks like he's always going to fall off the tightrope wire, right? Ryan's so good. He's like a laser focus, but Colin's like, ah! And you're like, he's going to lose it. He's going to just look, and he doesn't. And so who's more entertaining, watching the tightrope walker that's about to fall 100 times or the perfectly executed tightrope walk?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think that reminds me of something I heard a while ago about Jeff Garland too, the Sinbad thing, that is, because what Jeff Garland does from Curb Your Enthusiasm is whenever he does a stand-up show, he has 2 hours. His shows are 2 hours.
Yep.
And with the same audience, and he does 1 hour of prepared material and 1 hour of improv material.
Yep.
And 100% of the time, if he's filming or whatever, the special that he makes is the improv material.
Wow. I've seen his show out here in Los Angeles. It was interesting. It was a lower energy than I like to see. Does that make sense? Yeah. So he just kind of sits in a chair and he's like,
yeah, but
it's like, okay,
if you can do that, that's the smart thing to do, especially if the crowd work is funnier than your normal set. Because then you never have to write you write a 1 hour set and that's it. You never have to write anything ever again. That's always the scariest part of me. Like, if I ever were to do record like my set for, if I was to release like a video on YouTube or something, because I have a solid 30-minute set right now. And if I was to do that and put it out, I can't do that set anymore because it's already, I have to write another 30-minute set.
Yeah. Yeah. Or, if people discover that set and they like it, they they kind of want, and then they see you're playing nearby. They take their friends to come see you, and they're like, "Yeah, oh, he's doing this joke. This is a good." Like it's the greatest hit. It's like, oh, we have to see him do that joke again.
Yeah, like the Mitch Hedberg thing.
Yeah.
Mitch Hedberg in his last few years, like he was so gone that he didn't really know his own jokes, and so people from the audience would just yell out, "Do the rice joke."
Poor guy.
Oh man, I would love to have seen Mitch Hedberg at his height, like before he got all wrecked.
Yeah, me too.
That was a great comedian. Like that's another thing that's scary. I could never write jokes like that. Those just real quick one-liners, because God, you got to write so much material for that.
Yeah, that's what it was. Way back in the Rodney Dangerfield kind of era. It was all one-liner jokes. It was like joke.
Well, the thing
there
about,
were no stories.
Like you said, Rodney Dangerfield, I've watched a lot of documentaries about him, and he didn't really hit until he was 50?
Yeah.
Because he had spent most of his life just writing jokes. So he had a lifetime of just writing jokes by the time he hit the stage, and just had literally thousands of jokes to pull from.
Yeah. My favorite Rodney joke was, I don't do a great impression, but he goes, my girlfriend said, "Come on over, there's nobody home." So I went over. Well, there was nobody home.
God, I love Rodney Dangerfield. He's still to this day one of my favorite comedians.
Oh, yeah. He's great. He was great.
Yeah, there's something to be said about that old school, golden age era of comedians. Because, you even watch, an old Louis Anderson set who that sadly just passed away. I mean, that's, the framework of, the kind of stuff that comedians are still doing today, where it's just the same, theme of joke, but over and over, and then slightly different, and then more meat on the bone.
Yep.
I mean, there's just so much inspiration from that era of comics, like him and Dangerfield.
There was a comic in the South that I used to see, and I can't remember his name because he never quite made it out of the South. But his catchphrase was "Save up." Is that Save up?
No.
He talk about, he was kind of like what's the guy's name that played Mater?
Larry the Cable Guy?
Yeah, it was like Larry the Cable Guy, but before Larry. And he'd come out there and do all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. And then he'd make some joke about money and he'd just go, "Save up." And it just, it's just like that, saying "save up's" not funny, but because he said it after every punchline, it got to be really funny when he
It's one of those things, if you say a weird saying over and over again, eventually it gets funny.
Yeah,
I guess that's the psychology behind it.
Yeah.
But I
See, that's what our stand-up's missing, Jason, is a good catchphrase.
Yeah, you need a good catchphrase, Jacob. Just something you could scream at the audience after every joke.
I just watched the Bernie Mac special that he did live at the Apollo, which is considered one of Bernie Mac's greatest performances. And after the end of every joke, he just says, "I'm not afraid of you, motherfuckers." That's his, and he says it after, and it bookcases every joke, and it gets funnier and funnier and funnier when he says it.
So I wanted to ask you guys about this. I don't think it's necessarily joke thievery, but you had mentioned Louis Anderson, which made me think of John Panette. Jacob, do you guys know who John Panette is? He's kind of the bigger comedian. He was always talked about being fat. Basically, always talk about going to the buffet, things like that.
That's every large comedian.
But he was big.
Dude, you're ruining half my set. Right
he was big. He was really big for a while there, and then he was actually in the last episode of Seinfeld. And he passed away a few years ago from a heart attack. But he had this bit about going to grocery stores and them asking them if he has the rewards card. He's like, "No, I have money," and that was his whole bit. And then I was on TikTok last night, and I love Brian Regan. Brian Regan, I love.
Oh yeah,
he's a great comedian. He had a bit that was almost exactly the same. And I was like, ooh, ow. I almost felt compelled to send him an email or something, be like, "Hey, John Panette did that already."
Yeah, gosh, I think that like people stealing, I don't really think that most of the time it's stealing. I think that just funny people think funny things,
Yeah.
and I think you're bound to come across some of the same kind of situations. So, um, I mean, I'm sure it happens. I've heard stories about Robin Williams, like, giving guy like, "Hey,
Oh
here's
yeah.
$100. I want this bit," and they're like, "Well, it's not for sale." He's like, "Well, I'm going to do it. So here's $100." That kind of thing. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's a tough one.
Well, there's just so much oversaturation now too in stand up. It seems like everyone and their mother is getting on stage. My mother actually has done stand up before, so everyone and their mother is literally
What?
doing stand up. Yeah, my mother is sweet. She just turned 54-year-old woman. We did a Mother's Day show, and I was hosting. And yeah, for the Mother's Day show, like my mom got bullied into doing open mic comedy.
Oh my God. I hope she just gave you shit the whole time.
Oh,
'cause
she
that
did.
would be the
Really
funniest.
did. She really did. Her whole set was basically about how horrible I am.
Yes.
And I was sitting in the back like, God damn it, she's right. Like I mean, I can't even argue. I'm kind of horrible. But no,
What's the
without
comedy scene like in Mississippi? How many, like, what's it like down there?
it's bad. It's not.
It
It's
ebbs
not
and
the
flows. I mean, we'll get to a point where we'll have a really good room, and then it'll kind of die out and run its course, and then go somewhere else. And
Right.
It's all bar shows here. Like
Yeah.
Sure.
The nearest club is 2 hours away, which
Okay.
living in Mobile for so long. Like,
Yeah.
everything's few and far between. Like I mean, we've gone to Mobile. Mobile is more of a hub now for shows.
Wow.
Like they have a few good rooms there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's only an hour from us. So I've headlined over in Mobile before. And
So
yeah,
if I'm remembering from like doing bar stuff, it's like there's really they will not go with you down the road of a story. You guys just got to come out with the dirty jokes, and they're
Yeah.
drunk, and you better just say fuck balls and over it.
Yeah,
Just
and you get a lot.
It's blue and black.
You get a
Blue and
lot.
black do the best.
You get a lot of hecklers, especially being in bar shows. But the good thing for me is I'm deaf in my left ear, so I can't hear what they're saying anyway. So heckling doesn't really bother me.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm from Mississippi, so I know how to fight. So
Oh yeah.
I've gotten in a few fist fights with hecklers before.
Damn.
That's for another.
Yeah, there was
podcast.
a night that me and Jacob were doing a comedy competition over in Mobile, and at the end of the show, there's a whole story behind this, but I was inside waiting to hear who were the first, second, and third place or whatever. While I'm inside listening for that, Jacob's outside getting a fight with some hecklers. Like the dude swung on him. I'm like, man, if I'd have been outside, that dude would have gotten wrecked.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. But it's that kind of scene here, like where there's a lot of angry drunk people who don't care about comedy the way that you care about comedy.
Yeah.
And like if you don't have like dark black humor or like really deep blue humor, then you're probably not gonna do well like doing 10 minutes clean.
I've done a lot of improv in bars, like growing in Orlando and some in the South, and it's like it's the worst when like they didn't expect to see a show, like the bars hired you and they have no idea there's going to be comedy,
Right.
and it's just like, oh, hey everybody.
That's 9/10 of the shows that me and Jacob do at this point.
Yeah.
Like people come into the bar, have no idea there's comedy going on.
Those are rough. I salute you guys, man. That's tough.
Man.
But hey, it toughens us up, man.
Absolutely.
We got some tough skin.
100%.
I mean, it really is good in a way though, because I mean, you do enough of those bar shows where like I've been lucky enough to open for some bigger people and some legit rooms where I do the same material that no one listens to at a Tuesday night open mic, but it kills in this room because I've conditioned myself to get those jokes.
That's awesome.
But before we go, we got a couple more minutes here. One thing we like to ask the guest is, what would be a bit of advice that you would have for somebody coming up like an improv or wants to kind of break into the scene, even get on a show like, Whose Line Is It Anyway? Like, what would be your one bit of advice for people like that?
There's three simple steps to get on Whose Line or any show like that. One is do it every day of your life from the time you're 18 to 40. Audition 8 times without getting on, and then make the star your best friend. With those 3 simple steps, even you can get on Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Yeah, just know Wayne Brady. That's it.
Just know Wayne Brady. If people want to be on like TV stuff, I'd say you have to move to LA. And everybody's going, well, I have a friend that lived in Atlanta, and there's always exceptions. But if you want to know what the odds are, and if you're a betting person, your odds are much better to be in Los Angeles, just because of just being seen by people that live here. And like the other day, someone put me on one of their sketch comedy pilots because I ran into him at the grocery store. He's like, "Oh, hey, John, how you doing? Oh, hey, man, what's up? I'm doing this thing. Hey, can you play a doctor character?" Yeah. When is it tomorrow? Tomorrow? Yeah, sure. I was just like, just because I lived here, I ran into. So that's what happens is just you run into the people that live and work here, and because you're here, if you're out of sight, you're out of mind. So my advice to people that they want to be in TV is like, you got to move to Los Angeles, at least for a while.
Yeah, looks like I might
that's a
have to
bittersweet
move to
truth,
LA.
man.
Yeah.
That's not an answer a lot of people want to hear, but it's definitely the correct answer.
I mean, it can be done in other places. There's no right way, but it's like if you're in Vegas and you're going to bet, on odds that you're 50-50 or 2,000 to 1, like where are you going to put your money? It's,
Yeah. Last question from me here. This is a question that everyone loves it when I ask. I like to ask a lot of our guests that we have here. Mr. Mangum, when was the last time you shit your pants?
Oh, man. The last time I shit my pants. I think.
I love how everybody takes this so seriously when you ask this question.
Well, it's because I probably shit my pants a couple thousand times, but the last time it's hard to pinpoint. I think it was when I was in high school, and I was laughing. It was always your buddy that says something really funny, and then you just things open, and if there's something waiting, it's going to say hello. And I went into the bathroom, and I took my underwear off. I dumped the perpetrator into the toilet. I threw the underwear. No, I put the underwear, because I grew up kind of poor. So I remember I put the underwear in a brown bag. Nowadays, I just toss it. But back then, I was like, had maybe 4 pairs of underwear. So I threw it in a brown paper bag and wrapped it up, cleaned myself, and went commando for the rest of the day. And then when I came home from school, I threw my backpack in the bag. I just threw it all on the table. I remember my mom going, "What?" She had opened the bag because there was a bag on the table. There was a bag and just the little turtle head waiting to say hello.
That's the best story yet we've had for pants shitting.
I think it is. Yeah. Last week, I asked our guest, Brant Tobler, that question, who's a great Colorado comic. And he doubled down with a pissing himself story.
Oh, geez.
Which is something that I've never even thought of. Like I haven't, because most of the time when I ask people that question, they're like, I can't conceive of a time when I could have ever possibly shit in my own pants. But I couldn't possibly conceive of a time where I've just messed up and pissed myself. Like, who does that?
Pissing seems like a lot harder, because I've done the thing where I've felt a little bit come out, and you're able to. Yeah, it's easier to clench off the pee stream than the turd. When the turd's coming out, you can't stop it.
Because if you clench, then it's just gone.
Yeah, it's the inertia of the movement has already began. What are we talking about?
I ask that question every single week. Don't worry about it.
I love it. Now, what would be really good is when's the last time you shit somebody else's pants? I would like to hear those stories if anyone has one.
I feel like there are those stories out there where, like, you have an accident on yourself and you borrow a friend's pants, and then you have an accident in those pants.
Yeah, you should. Yeah,
that sounds so aggressive. Like, I'm gonna shit your pants.
That's what you should say to the hecklers next time they give you shit on stage. I'm gonna shit your pants. What?
Maybe that should be your catchphrase, Jacob. Just after every joke, I'm like, I'm gonna shit your pants.
Yeah, just after every punchline. Yeah, it's like, no matter how mundane it is.
Oh man, well, I guess we're coming up to the end of the episode here. Is there anything else that was there anything that any of the producers wanted to ask Jacob? I know Mike Evelyn had a question.
Oh, he wanted us to ask about the Chappelle Show sketch.
Oh yeah,
that Wayne Brady was in. So I guess we should ask you: Have you ever seen Wayne Brady have to cut a bitch before?
No, but that was really great to like see him be able to do that sketch, and it was like I think that opened up a lot of things for him because I've always known that he was hilariously funny. Because just our 2-person show, his brain is so fast and so quick, and he's a genius at that. But I think a lot of people had pegged him just as the Who's Line guy, which was very this kind of like rated PG TV stuff. And so, but I knew he could do that other stuff great, but he just didn't have a chance. And so when Chappelle gave him the chance to do that, and he just, I mean, God, that's one of the best sketches in the whole series.
Oh yeah, that's really like you said. That's what made me turn like on him because I always thought of him as like the happy-go-lucky guy, improv guy, and then when he did that sketch, I was like, oh, this is a whole different side here. Yeah,
I remember I got a little upset for him, although he's like, I'm not upset, but I remember after that, Chris Rock said, "Oh, he can sit at the table now," and I'm like, but he was so good before that too. Like what the songs he makes up are impossible. Like. Nobody else can do that and do an impression. So he's already a fucking genius, and now he can sit at he could always. But Wayne was like, don't worry about it. But I was mad for him. Like he couldn't sit at the table until that moment. Like, what does it mean?
See, everyone needs a Jonathan Mangum in their corner.
That'll
right. That for you. Wayne Brady is the table guy.
Yeah,
he is the table.
That should be on a T-shirt. Wayne Brady is the table. Damn it.
Is the table. Damn it.
But that's going to bring us to the end of the show. Thank you so much
for being here. I'll just tell your friends to follow me on Twitter at Mangum1. On YouTube, it's the U Jokes channel, UJOKES, and then Let's Make a Deal's on every day. Whose Line's on whenever it's on, and sometimes I'm on.
Awesome. So. Well, I'm going to release this later tonight, and I'll tag you in it and on the Twitters and everything. And so, Jacob, any last words before we leave here this evening?
Just for our viewers, please go follow Mr. Mangum on Twitter and go subscribe to his YouTube channel. Next week, we're going to have on Neil Rubenstein, who is a fantastic comic who just got off the road opening for Motion City Soundtrack. So if you like emo music, punk music, that kind of thing, we're going to talk a lot about that. We're going to talk about comedy. And go to openmicers.com because that's where I list all of our guests for the whole month. You get to see all the cool people coming up, and you get to see all that exclusive material and whatnot you don't get to see everywhere else.
And don't forget to join our Patreon at patreon.com/ompodcast because we do the extra episode every month. This month's extra episode, we have the return of Eric Paul Scarabin, who has had a lot of stuff happen since the last time we talked to him. He's in a new movie with Morgan Freeman. He's in a new Blumhouse movie. And he had, what do you call that surgery where they
He had lap bands?
Yeah, he got the whatever that surgery is, and he's already lost like 150 pounds.
Whoa, good for him, man.
I told him that the other day. I was like, dude, you lost a whole person. That's got to feel awesome. So he's going to be back on next week, and go, like $1 a month, and you get the extra episode.
Yeah.
Go throw money at us.
And you get to see me get my belly button pierced.
Yeah. We got to pierce your belly button this month, too.
Yeah.
That's going to be fun. So if you want to email us at openmikerspodcast@gmail.com. Of course, it's patreon.com/ompodcast, and openmikers.com takes you to our website. We thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you to Mr. Mangum, and we will see you guys next week.
I think I lost a whole person once.
That's because you pooped like 10 pounds. Don't you hate it when you go to the bathroom? Like this morning, I thought I had to go really bad, and I went, and there was like nothing in the toilet. I'm like, what is happening right now?
Oh, man.
So I'm going to leave that for the Twitch viewers and YouTube. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week.